All right, folks, thank you for joining me and joining your peers here for this, our second workshop of the Undocumented Student Services Life After College series. I host two different workshop series throughout the academic year, and this one is focusing on independent contracting. If you were present for the first of the entrepreneurship series back in November, it focused on developing the entrepreneur mindset of like taking this decision to launch a business and like monetize a passion is one way that we can define entrepreneurship, where you put your skills to work and you earn an income, the non-traditional way of getting employment. I am glad to be here and share some of my personal experience with independent contracting, navigating not only grad school as an undocumented student, but also launching a business. And I'm going to try to cover a panoramic view of what independent contracting is and some of the forms, some of the paperwork that you should become acquainted with. At the same time, at any point, raise your hand, ask a question, drop it in the chat, whatever this space is for you. And for those latecomers, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to try to cover everything before 1 p.m. so you have ample time to ask questions. At the same time, you can schedule time with me to do a one-on-one, which I know some of you have in this forum. And lastly, if you want to stay beyond 1 p.m., I can also do that and workshop some of this material. So the recording and presentation will be uploaded to the USS website, and you can have access to that, or I can email it to you directly. So the objective for today is to provide you with some basic understanding of the process and what are some of the necessary components of formulating a scope of work, which can also be known as like a contract or an agreement to do independent contracting. So I divided it in a few parts. Part one will cover like what are some of the models that you can do business with. Is it a sole proprietorship or limited liability company? Is it independent contracting as a freelancer? I'll cover some of those basics. What are some of the licensing and permits that you have access to through the state of California to work as an independent contractor without work authorization? In part two, I'm going to get into more of the details of what do we mean by preparing a scope of services or a scope of work, also a contract. How do you set up your payments and make clear expectations of the work you will be providing as a contractor? What are some of the differences with being a contractor and an employee? If any of that is not clear, like I said, feel free to raise your hand or drop a chat question. So welcome to those that just trickled in, and we're just getting started. Oh yes, and part three will give you some resources with live links that you can navigate on your own to take the next steps and to putting a lot of this into practice. So let's choose a business structure. If you wanted to do independent contracting, there's different avenues that you could go about this. Independent contracting can be done as a freelancer. You can also own your company under your name, which is commonly known as a sole proprietorship, or you can set up a business entity that makes you the person running the business and conducting business with others separate from that business entity. Even though it can be a one-person business, there's legal structures like the limited liability company or LLC that allow for this access to run a corporation of sorts under your name. So I'm presenting different models and let's get into it. Independent contracting as a freelancer. You can visit a lot of the information that I provide you here and some of the links that you'll see through the presentation. This one precisely comes from the Immigrants Rising website. They created Spark Rising, which is solely focused on entrepreneurship. I'll talk more about that in a second. So, an independent contractor is defined as a self-employed person who produces a specific type of work or product. So, it can be a service or a product in a determined amount of time. So, how you set up your agreement with who you work for as a contractor has an end time, a start time, or you are charging per project, for example. These are some of the differences that we'll get into of what differentiates a contractor from an employee, where you might be working for years at the same place per hour, for example. So there's differences in both. The general rule is that a person paying an independent contractor has the right to control or direct only the result of the work and not what will be done and how it will be done. So, for example, if you provide someone, if let's say you engage in a contract to create a website for someone, they don't have a say into where you work, how you develop the website, what steps you take to produce the website. The only thing they can control in your project is whether they pay you or not. Did you deliver to what you said you would deliver when you agreed to create this website? So where you work, what time you work, how long it takes you, like that's totally up to you, as opposed to, let's say you're developing websites for Apple and they hire you as an employee, then there's a time where you will be clocking in, a space where you will be working, there's training that will be done so you can be an employee. Freelancers and independent contractors are subtly different than employees. Independent contractors generally use their own name to do business, but they may decide to start their own company by starting a sole proprietorship and using a business name instead. So maybe some of you have heard of folks who start a business, just scale up one level above working as a freelancer with your name. And let's stick to the website development example. You go to your city hall and you file a fictitious business name. So what that means is that you pay $50 for a permit, which says you're going to be conducting business as website development by Juan Ruiz, for example. Um, when you file your name as a fictitious business name, you're still working under yourself. You're still in charge of any gains or losses as a sole proprietor because you're running that business. And that's only one step up in scaling as a freelancer. The person or company that pays is not required to ask an independent contractor to fill out an I-9. An I-9 is the form that employers provide to their employees so that they could provide proof of work authorization, which basically requires for your social security number and proof of employment, right? When you are an independent contractor, if your contractor will be, if your client will be engaging in business with you and paying you more than $600, then you complete the W-9 form. I'll show you that in a second. A lot of information to unpack. Bear with me, folks. So independent contractors are responsible for having a social security number, tax identification number, or employer identification number to complete the W-9 form. So what this means is that you can engage in independent contracting with your ITIN, or if you have registered a company and the IRS has provided you an employer identification number, an EIN, you can do that. You can use that to complete the W-9 form. In the W-9 form, it's only meant for your client to show the IRS, I engaged in a contract with this company and I paid them more than $600. And so then you are responsible to pay the IRS for that income and file your taxes independently. Nowhere in this transaction is there a requirement for you to show that you have work authorization. So the W-9 form is filled out at the beginning of the project. And when you complete the project, your client will let the IRS know this person was paid, let's say, $2,000 to generate websites for me. And so then you will receive in the mail 1099 form, which basically shows you were paid $2,000 by one of your clients and you use that to file your taxes. So it's a very automatic process. You complete the W-9 for your client, they send that to the IRS, and then you receive automatically the 1099 form so that you can complete your taxes when the time comes. So if you have multiple clients, you will receive multiple 1099 forms specifying how much money you were paid with the tax identification number or the EIN number that was used when completing the 9 form, W-9 form. Folks, any questions on this, please let me know. This is information that I had to learn along the ways. I did have a limited liability company that I ran for 4 years since the pandemic. I recently closed it because I am in my grad program and I was just paying taxes to the state of California without using my company. But when I had my contracts, I completed the W-9 forms and engaged in the work that I did. Then my clients would send the 1099 form automatically in the mail. And so then I would compile those when I completed taxes. But this is the information that I've experienced. It's all in the IRS website. And again, I'm sharing it with you as one perspective, and all the links that I provide give you more in-depth information. I'm not a tax accountant, but I can also demystify a lot of the daunting information that is out there. Any questions along the way are welcome. So now, let's look a little bit at a sole proprietorship. You and the business that you establish are the same. So what that means is that there's no legal distinction between you, the owner of the business, and your company. You would be liable for all debts. And in the case of, for example, you have a lawsuit, the lawsuit stemming out of a business transaction that went wrong, you would be directly impacted. So all of your assets, like your car, your house, your personal property, they belong to the business, and the business belongs to you. They're Sole proprietors might work for folks who their work is not that risky and they are experts in their field and they don't want to scale up to a limited liability company, for example, or a co-op or a corporation or a partnership, and they just want to stay to their sole proprietorship. Um, I'm presenting a lot of options. Depending on what you would like to do for independent contracting, those options look different as to what might be more convenient for you. If you're going to be a sole proprietor, you'll need, again, if you have a social security number, you can use that. If you have a tax identification number, you can use that, or an EIN, so that you can do business as the name of that company, and which is filed with your county clerk's office to get a fictitious business name. Again, I invite you to look at these links because they have informative videos and worksheets to go more in depth. So there's some main differences you have to keep in mind with being an employee versus an independent contractor. How you behave with your client, the control that they have over you financially, or the type of relationship. It's all different if you're an employee and you're an independent contractor. So employers, if you were an employee, they train you directly. They tell you the time you clock in, you clock out, where you're going to work. They determine your pay in terms of salary, which might limit you from getting other jobs elsewhere. And whether the company is profitable or not, you don't have access to those profits if you're an employee, right? So there might be also some attractive aspects of being an employee where you might get benefits, and you might be part of that company. You're able to work for them. Independent contractors, those of us who engage independent contracting, it might be because we have to because of the immigration status. It might also be because you enjoy some of the aspects of being an independent contractor. So you get to set your own hours and you get to work as much or as little as you wish. You don't have direction or training from your client. You are engaging in a contract where you come as the expert, you're solving their unmet need. How you do that, it is up to you. You may work for many clients at a time, and of course, as a contractor, you might have losses, you might have profits, but it is totally up to you what you're able to do. And you can work with many projects, many clients at a time and determine how you do that. So there are subtle differences here. Now, let's get into scaling up to a business entity. And some of you have heard that a limited liability company is quite attractive for undocumented folks because it is a full-on business entity. And what that means is that with the California Secretary of the State, you complete two forms. One is the Articles of Incorporation, and the other one is your organization agreement. So what that means is that in one form, which is 2 pages, you inform the Secretary of State your business address, what's the nature of your work. It can be very, very vague. It can be very precise. It is very interesting how that works. And you complete those forms. One is $70, the other one is $20 with the Secretary of State. And you also let them know how your company is organized. Do you have members or are you the sole member and owner of that company? So the attractive aspects of having a limited liability company is that the Secretary of State determines you a business in the state of California, for which you have to pay $800 just to be in business every year. However, the tax benefits that you have access to because you are a business are far greater than being a freelance independent contractor or a sole proprietor. Because the difference with the LLC is that you and the company are two separate entities. So the legal language is disenfranchised entities. You and the business are disconnected. However, you as the owner and member of the company, you can be doing the same work that you were doing before becoming an LLC. That doesn't change. It's just that with the state, you are considered a business. And this might be beneficial if you're going to have clients like you're providing services or goods to, let's say, the University of California or bigger institutions, bigger companies that might deem you as a freelancer without this business structure a high liability. With the business entity, the Secretary of State has already incorporated you as a business. And so then that allows you to have access to other contracts and to other clients that you might not have just by working as a freelancer or a sole proprietor. Let me see. With filing an LLC, you have access to an employer identification number, which you request with the IRS using your ITIN number. And what this means is that they grant you a number for which you can hire employees. You can also use that number to open a bank account, um, to hire other independent contractors. But the interesting thing is that you might be undocumented, you have an LLC, and you also have access to an EIN, which you can hire employees. And remember that hiring employees will require you to have them complete the I-9 form, which they will show you proof of employment. And if you have other independent contractors that you want to hire, you can use the W-9 form, and then they pay their taxes, and you don't have to get proof of employment. Again, I'm going to remind you that I'm going to get through this information rather quickly so that we can leave space for questions at the end or right now, whatever you like. So if you were to create a business, let's say you have this idea of engaging in business and you would like to take the LLC route, for example, how do you create a plan that allows you to envision what are the costs and expenses, what are some of the connections and networks you might need to tap into so that your business can flourish? So in creating a business plan, there's something called the business model canvas, and I'm going to show you what that looks like a little bit. It's basically a tool to quickly and easily define and communicate your business idea that you might be thinking about into what looks like a plan so that you can actually carry it out and engage in business. It is a one-page document which works through just the fundamental aspects of a business or a product, and you get to structure your idea in such a way that you can also pitch it to folks so they can invest in your business. Let's say you are getting ready to um, reach out to a bank and see if they're willing to give you a loan to scale up your business, or you're going to apply to a grant so that you can launch a business. This business model canvas allows you to see precisely the information that you have to show to them. This is what it looked like in blank form, and I'm going to show you what each section is basically asking. So what are some of the customers you're going to be working with? What are some of the key resources you're going to need, or how are you going to use your revenue? What are the costs you're going to incur just to be in business, or who might be your partners so that you can grow and continue a business relationship with folks. This was brought to us in what we were doing before, the Entrepreneur Pilot Program. We had that during the pandemic, and Carla Reyes Noguera created this document for us, and we can put you in touch with Carla. Carla also runs what is called a business incubator, and you can sign up to do these workshops with Carla and go from an idea to a full-on business that you materialize. Carla Reyes is one of our allies. She was also undocumented, a UCSC alumni who went on to get her master's in business administration. And the work that she continues to do is to support undocumented folks in launching their business. So this has been very, very fruitful for some other of my students. And again, I can send you these forms so that you can work on them, or we can set up a one-on-one time and workshop them together. If that doesn't look enticing to you, Immigrants Rising also has a brainstorming worksheet. I have a couple of screenshots here of that information. And it's a 4 or 5 page worksheet which basically asks you the right questions, right? Like, what field are you trying to get into? What are some of the passions that you have? What are some of the skills? Um, what are some, because you might be thinking, I have some general ideas of doing a business, but workshopping some of these brainstorming worksheets allow you to sediment some of those ideas into concrete plans that later you might be in business with someone. It's also a live link right up here that can take you directly to the worksheet. What would be some of the paperwork you need to have if you want to engage in business with someone? You're going to need a contract. And so for your clients, for your consultants, you're going to have to engage in a contract that specifically outlines what the work consists of that you're going to do for them, when you're going to begin working and when it ends, and how are they going to pay you. All of this information is necessary so that you can establish a relationship which can be clear. And if in the future you need to make changes to this contract, maybe your client asks you to extend that work that you're doing for them, then you could do something called a change order, right? Where you outline for how much longer are we changing it? How is this going to affect the budget? Are they going to be paying you more? When are they paying you? You outline this information as clear as possible in a contract, and it's not as daunting as it may seem. There are some links I'm going to provide you to download some sample contracts, which then you can take the sections you need and omit the other ones you don't. But be clear, outline your information. You have to say what you are responsible for, what you are not, and make sure you don't use language that describes your work with the language that is used to describe the work of an employee. I'll get a little bit more into that in a second. Sample contracts websites like thelawdepot.com provide you with downloadable contracts that I have used, which allow you to just omit certain sections and keep others. How you set up your payment terms, what that means is how are you getting compensated for your work? Is it going to be an hourly rate for which you invoice your client every 2 weeks, every month? Or is it based on the whole project itself? If I'm going to build a website for you, and it's $1,000 for a website, then I might require a deposit, maybe a payment in between, and the final payment at the end. It's up to you how you set up those terms in the contract. How are you going to invoice them and receive your funds? Are you setting up a direct deposit? Are you asking for a check? Are you asking for them to pay you cash and you provide them a receipt? This is all the stuff that goes into that contract. You, as the contractor, would be responsible to invoice your client, and it's usually the case that you get paid within 30 days of your invoice. There might be some clients that ask you, what sort of payment terms do you have? If I pay you in within 10 days, do you give me a 2% discount on that invoice? Or if you say, no, I want net 30 payment terms, which means you're going to pay me within 30 days, but you're going to pay me the full amount. These things are important because you get to set up the expectations, and then if that is not respected, then you can scale up to like not asking, demanding like late fees and things of that nature. Here's two links that I have used in QuickBooks that are to generate your invoices. There are templates. These are free and very user friendly. So remember, you're going to have a header which includes the information about your business. At the same time, you're going to have an invoice number that says this is invoice number, whatever number you want to keep track of that business relationship and with other clients you might have, and an invoice date. These are all very necessary aspects of the invoice so that then you can adhere to those terms of the 30 days or the 10 days, whatever you have already agreed on. Mm, and the information of who you're billing, right? Who is responsible to render your payment. Again, other terminology that might be interesting, client information, how much you're charging total, what are some things that you can bill for, what are the things you're not billing for, and instructions on how to receive a check or have them pay virtually if that's an option. Now, in terms of managing your cash flow and saving for your taxes, there's a couple things I want to highlight. Make sure you are covering for your business expenses and the taxes that you might have to pay at the end of the year. So if you are a freelancer, independent contractor, just working directly under your name, you will have to save around 25% of those funds that you're paid so that you can pay the IRS at the end of the year for taxes. It changes if you have a business structure. Like I said, if you have an LLC, for example, you're able to itemize like printer costs, website costs, uniforms, office space, maybe lunches with your clients, things of that nature that allow you to bring down your tax responsibility to about 14%. So when you are a business, you pay less taxes. When you are a freelancer, you pay around 25% of taxes. You can research around like how much are other folks charging for the work that you are doing, something similar. Um, like sticking to the example of formulating a website, if it's going to be charged per hour, how much is a software engineer asking or charging to develop a website? Maybe some folks are high end, $100 an hour, maybe other folks are $50 an hour, and so then you get to determine what you want to charge. In addition, it's recommended to have like different pricing packages. Maybe you believe in a nonprofit organization or you're going to develop that website for a family member or a friend. and you want to give them a special price that allows you to cover your business expenses and costs, but at the same time make a profit. And then again, that could be like your package A, right? Like the lowest package. And then you have a contract with Apple to develop them a website, and you know you can charge them up to like $300 an hour, for example. And so then you have like the other package. And then you have a package right in between. Maybe it's somebody who's growing their business and they have access to funds, and you want to land somewhere in the middle. So it's good to think of do your research. What do folks charge? What are some high-end folks doing this type of work, or selling this type of service or good, and how much do you want to charge? Make sure you don't take on more work that you can handle so that you maintain good relationships with your clients. Submit all your invoices on time, because if you have, for example, net 30 payment terms, then you're going to get paid within 30 days. And maybe it's important to you to get paid soon enough. So if you determine you're going to invoice your client on the first of every month, make sure you do that. So then you get paid the sooner the better. It's also recommended, if you have a business account, to open a savings account where you're probably saving that money that you might have to pay to the IRS at the end of the year. QuickBooks is also a great way to keep track of your taxes and your cost and expenses, because depending on the package that you have with QuickBooks, they can send your tax payments ahead of time so that you don't wait for the end of the year, if that's what you want to set up. And then you're not surprised at the end of the year being liable to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in taxes. I used OLT Taxes Online. Again, a lot of the resources that I'm showing you here, if not all, are undocu friendly. They're meant for folks who are doing independent contracting without a social security number. OLT.com is the site source that is provided by the IRS, and it's a free filing program online, very similar to what you would use for, say, TurboTax or H&R Block Online, right? Where you are the one using it, and the computer automates your options and also finds the errors in real time before you move on to the next page. OLT does that, and it is free. If your income is between 16,000 and 72,000, it will be free to use. And the state filing is free, and if anything, the federal filing is only $10. So this is the most accurate and reliable source I have found, that is under $10 for you to use. So let's say you have this idea already. I'm going to be doing an LLC. I'm going to be selling websites and a book on how to develop websites, or you're going to be doing services and goods, and you want to find the client, right? So you might want to create a proposal, which is usually a one-page concept of the project that you're going to do. So you pitch it to someone, right? At one point, I started my independent contracting um, career with UCSC when I finished my master's back in 2020, like right before the pandemic. And I pitched it to them and said, hey, look, there's an unmet need that you have in EOP. You are not doing enough information on launching a business or going to graduate school. And I would like to do both and develop a program. So teach folks how to launch a business. And so then I had to outline, as you can see in this page, like what is the relevant information that they need to have so that they can see where I fit in. What is the goal or objective of the project I'm pitching to them? For me, it was, let's get the information out to students and unpack it throughout the year. In the winter quarter and the spring quarter, they're going to be doing some things, and in the summer, they're going to be doing others. So you have to outline these sort of details and just pitch it and see where this proposal leads. So you also have to showcase why are you the right person they should select to engage in this project. This is only one example. Again, you can apply this to a number of things. If you want to do workshops, if you want to be a consultant, if you want to sell a training to a company, right? And you showcase, I have this expertise. This is how I would do the work. This is how much I would charge you. This is when I would start and when I would end. Sometimes knocking doors and pitching these sort of proposals are the way for you to engage in a business relationship with some folks. And that relationship can be ongoing. So that should cover more or less like a lot of the paperwork on how to maintain that business relationship or your business transactions going, how to invoice, how to set up a contract, what sort of business structures we have, how can you develop a plan. Let me share with you some resources, probably in the next 8 or 9 minutes, and then we'll wrap up by like 12:50 so you can ask your questions. And if you'd like to ask questions and for me to stop recording, I can do that. Let's say you engage with some company as your client. Let's put UCSC, for example. UCSC brings what they call vendors on board. Vendors are folks that they do business with. And oftentimes, depending on the kind of work the vendors will be doing, the vendor slash contractor is the same thing. UCSC will require them to have a general liability insurance to cover accidents and things that go beyond our control. So you can have your own general liability insurance if you're already in business and you already have had this before, like going through AAA, Allstate, Aflac, I don't know. These are all insurance providers, right? But at the same time, your client might also have a system where you purchase the insurance from them only for that specific project. So it happened to me when I was doing the kind of work that I was doing, managing a program for them as a vendor with my LLC. I didn't want to get general liability insurance for the whole year because my project for them was only for about 8 months. And so then I said, okay, let me tap into this resource. Campus Connections is the the entity within the university that provides you the insurance you need so that you can be in contract with them. For me, it worked, and you, as a USC, as a UCSC student and alumni, you might want to check out Campus Connections because they also offer other things beyond insurance for your business. They offer like renter's insurance, travel insurance while you're a student, or once you graduate, they offer plans for life insurance as well. I just thought I would share this with you if you might need it. So let's say you want to launch a business and you have your business plan and you want to get a small loan to do that. Mission Asset Fund is a lending circle, which is very similar to like a lending circle you might have already with friends or family. In Spanish, it might be known as a tanda, where folks get together, make a plan, and everybody lends each other money. So the Mission Asset Fund took on this idea of a lending circle. The cool thing about what they're doing is that it's a little more robust, where they share your activity of this borrowing of money with the credit bureau, so that if you pay your loan on time, then you're able to also grow your credit score. You have access to money while helping other members in your community. And they also offer financial education online, and it's totally secure, private, and encrypted information. Mission Asset Fund, they're doing very interesting things. It's a live link. You might want to check them out. El Pájaro CDC is an example. If you're local or in Watsonville, Community Development Corporation. So they have programs for the community so that you can learn how to launch a business. They get very in depth into some of their workshops in Spanish and in English for all ages, not only for university folks, but it might be for a loved one, your mom, grandmother, a neighbor who is trying to get into the farmer's market, or, for example, street vending. What El Pájaro CDC does is they have a kitchen incubator, a commercial kitchen incubator, and you're able to do your trainings with them and use their kitchen to cook your goods and then um, be ready to be able to sell them in farmers markets or in local supermarkets, like, for example, New Leaf or Sprouts or things of that nature. So you might want to check them out. There's a live link for them. We worked with them in developing a pilot program before, and they're still doing great things in Watsonville for developing businesses. You're not alone in this whole trajectory of being an independent contractor and undocumented. Here are other folks who are your allies to support you. Undocu Professionals by Sherrod Garcia. You can check them out in the workshops that they have and tapping into their network so that you can also advertise your business or get other options to do business with folks. Immigrants Rising and their website on Spark is something that I would totally ask you to check out after this workshop because they have a lot of worksheets and very short videos, 2 to 3 minute videos on, for example, what is a co-op? I didn't cover that here today, but for example, if you want to pair up with other folks and create a cooperative, there's benefits into that that are important to know because you have more folks working in the business and you're able to grow your business much quicker. And if one person in the business has connections you don't, they bring that to the business cooperative. You also share your profits at the end of the year, or you can invest them in your business. And it's not that it's a setback, but you should know that everybody who's a member of the co-op has to be in agreement with the changes that are made. And so if that's not something you want to do because you want to be in business on your own and be able to make your changes in real time as a sole member and owner, then that's where an LLC or freelancing or sole proprietor might work for you. But anyway, long story short, check out spark.immigrantsrising.com so you can see more about a co-op, a partnership, a corporation, and many other ways to do business. Allies Pro Services is run also by an Undocu alumni from UCSC. You might have already know him. Is in the business of supporting you in the development as a professional, and that could be supporting you through developing your resume or tapping into networks and connecting with other folks, or providing you independent contractor opportunities. Check them out. Okay, I just want to make sure I get this message. Okay, so someone had to sign out, and I will be getting the rest of the recording and the presentation to them after we finish. Let me see, Immigrants Rising at UC. So there was a 47-page document put together by the Office of the President and Immigrant Rising for undocumented students on teaching them the ins and outs on independent contracting, creating an internship, creating a fellowship at your institution. It's meant for us. Check it out. There's a PDF online that you can read, or we can print a copy, have it at the office. And a lot of the information that I took for this presentation is from this pamphlet that they put together, and I use it all the time. I strongly recommend it. Undocu Basic Needs Project is super cool. They're one of the newest hubs of information that provides resources from attending grad school, mental health, entrepreneurship, just basically a hub of policy information and a way to connect with other folks who are doing this kind of research. And I encourage you to check them out. Spark your dreams through Immigrants Rising. I mentioned this a lot. Right now, they don't have a call for applications for grants, but if you complete their worksheets, become acquainted with the material that they offer online, and create your portal, then when they open for grants. You might be able to benefit from a grant. They supported me in the development of my business in 2022, and they gave me a grant of $5,000 that I invested into my business at the time. Check them out. And I think that is it. That's all the information that I have for this workshop. I want to stay true to my word, stop the recording, and give you all an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you.